Ever get confused by all the jargon on food labels? Let's talk about that. How's it going, guys? My name's Richie Kirwan, and today we're going to learn one of the most important skills when it comes to managing your nutrition, and that's how to read food labels. We'll talk about ingredients lists and how they're ordered. We'll talk about nutritional information and how to understand what it means about the food you eat. And finally, we'll talk about some of the most common phrases you might see on food packages. When you first start paying attention to your diet and learning about nutrition, it can be a little overwhelming with all the information that you see on different packs of food. But with everything you learn today, you'll be much better able to understand what's in the food you eat. First off, let's take a look at the ingredients list of some different foods to help you understand a little bit more about what goes into the foods you eat. Let's start off with an ingredient list for a random protein bar. Just because I know a lot of you will have tried one at some point in your life, and some of you might eat them quite regularly. So, ingredients, or food components, are always listed in order of greatest quantity, by weight. So whatever is first on the list means that it is the greatest single ingredient in the product. In this case, white chocolate is the biggest single component of the bar. I say component because white chocolate is not a single ingredient, because chocolate itself is made up of multiple ingredients. We can also see that it says 28% in parentheses, which means white chocolate amounts to 28% of the weight of the chocolate bar. And that's a relatively big proportion. Without that percentage amount that has been shown, it can be hard to tell how much of a proportion of the total ingredients that a single ingredient or component contributes. Oftentimes, manufacturers won't include a percentage amount because they may not want you to know if a product contains a lot of a less desirable ingredient, like sugar, for example. Or they might not want to show it contains only a little amount of a desirable ingredient, like protein powder. Now, after each component, the individual ingredients that make up that component are listed in parentheses after it. Here, the main ingredient of the white chocolate component is maltitol, which is a sugar alcohol or polyol. It has a lower calorie content than sugar and is often used in sugar-free chocolates and other products. You'll often see emulsifiers listed on ingredients labels. Many emulsifiers are naturally occurring, like here we have lecithins, which are not the same as lectins, which are found in things like egg yolks, soybeans, and sunflower seeds. Emulsifiers help water-based and fat-based ingredients to combine together properly. Now, the next part is something a lot of you will be interested in, and that's the protein blend. The ingredients are milk protein and soy protein. Because milk is listed first, we know it has more milk than soy. But because there are no percentages written here, it could be 51% milk and 49% soy protein, just in the protein blend. Now, for most people, that's not a major deal, as both soy and milk are high quality proteins and can both stimulate muscle growth similarly, although milk is slightly better. Soy is a cheaper protein, so that's why it's often used to lower production costs. However, this would matter more if the other protein used in the mix was a very low quality protein like collagen. If muscle protein synthesis is the goal, you want as much high quality protein in the mix as possible. Now, you can also make an argument that if you're relying on protein bars for your muscle growth needs, you've got other problems. And if maximizing muscle growth is a goal, you might want more than one protein bar, as eating more protein can overcome the issues of lower protein quality. You might just be using protein bars as a lower sugar, lower fat alternative to a chocolate bar, in which case the protein used isn't all that important at all. Now, if we look at the next ingredient on the list, it's collagen peptides. So, if collagen comes right after the protein blend, there could be just a tiny little bit more protein blend than collagen. And because the protein blend is made up of milk and soy, well, there is a possibility that there's even more collagen in the bar overall than milk or soy protein alone. So basically, a bar like this could be using a lot of lower quality protein. Again, not a major issue if muscle gain isn't your main goal. Next up on the list is humectant, specifically glycerol. Humectants are used to keep food nice and moist, and they're often used in protein bars and baked goods. Glycerol is formed when fat gets digested because fat is just made up of fatty acids bonded to a molecule of glycerol. There's also some sunflower oil, which is needed because fat improves the texture and flavor of a lot of foods. There's tapioca starch, which is probably used to improve the consistency and texture of the product. And there's cocoa butter and cocoa powder, which will give a chocolatey flavor. Right at the end, you have flavoring, salt, coloring, and sweeteners. These are all near the very end of the ingredients list because they're only used in very small amounts to improve the flavor of the final product. You can also see that some foods that are written in bold text are allergens. They're in bold to make it easier for people who might have allergies to spot them quickly on an ingredients list. So, If there's one thing to take away from this, it's that the ingredients at the start of an ingredient list are used in the highest amounts, and ingredients near the end of the list are used in the lowest amounts. On top of that, some complex ingredients often have a breakdown of what they contain written in parentheses after them. Something worth knowing too is that some companies will often list something called proprietary blends in their products. This is a mix of different ingredients, but they don't need to specify the exact order of the ingredients, so people won't know how much the final product contains. So for example, a product might have a proprietary blend of vitamins, minerals, and herbals. On the label, it might list all of those ingredients, and it might sound damn impressive. But in reality, each of those ingredients might only be present in tiny amounts that don't really have any effect on your health or your performance. That's something worth remembering if ever you see the phrase proprietary blend on a product. Now, one thing I haven't done here is go through an explanation of all the potential ingredients or food additives you might find, and that's just because it would take forever. Instead, if you're curious about an ingredient, you can check out online resources like the European Commission's Food Additive Database or the Food Standards Agency in the UK to learn more about those specific ingredients. You may have heard people say that the longer the ingredients list, the more unhealthy the product is. And that's just not necessarily true. Yes, some processed foods can have a very long list of ingredients, but that doesn't mean that they're automatically bad for your health. You could get a muesli, for example, with 20 to 30 ingredients that might be relatively unprocessed. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you might get some single ingredient foods that aren't particularly good for your health in excess. Pure sugar or pure butter, for example, are both single ingredients, but in large amounts, neither is good for your health. Just remember, it's not the length of an ingredients list that matters. It's what it contains, and in what amounts that matters. The more you read ingredients lists, the better you'll get at reading them. Now that you've got a better idea of how to read an ingredients list, it's time to move on to nutrition information panels. I'm going to cover some of the common mistakes that people make with these. Now, the type of information that has to be shown varies from country to country, but in the UK, you have to, by law, show information on 7 key values: energy in calories and kilojoules, fat and saturated fat in grams, carbohydrate and sugar, protein and salt. On top of those 7 values, you might also see extra voluntary information on fiber, starch, mono and polyunsaturated fats, polyols, which are sweeteners, as we mentioned earlier, and any vitamins or minerals. Usually, if a manufacturer includes this voluntary information, it's because they want to show off any nutrients with particular health benefits, like fiber or vitamin D. Let's take a look at this label, which is for plain, unsalted peanuts, as an example of how to read a food label. Often, you'll just get one column of values, usually per 100 grams of product, or 100 mils of product if it's a liquid. You get energy both in kilojoules, which most people aren't familiar with, and kilocalories, which more people recognize. Obviously, nuts are really high in calories, which is worth knowing before you eat a whole bag. You can see total fat, and within that, we see of which saturates. This means that the total amount of fat in 100 grams of peanuts is 46 grams, and of that fat, only 8.7 grams is saturated fat. This is really important too, because eating too much saturated fat can lead to increases in some risk factors for heart disease, and this is why labels need to provide details on saturated fat content. You can also see the amount of carbohydrates is 12 grams and the amount of sugars is 5.9 grams. This can be useful in processed foods to get an idea of the sugar content, but as these are just peanuts, you know that these aren't added sugars and are just naturally present in the nut. You can also see protein and salt content per 100 grams of nuts too. In this example, we also have a column showing values per 25 grams, which is a serving size, and also percentage of your recommended intake. The importance of having a portion column is huge. The reason you get values per 100 grams is so we can compare similar products by weight. The reason we have the serving size column is so you know how much energy and how much of each macronutrient you get in a specific serving. Some people, when they start out reading nutrition labels, forget to pay attention to the serving size and often just put the serving size for everything as 100 grams. This can make your calorie tracking really inaccurate. So for example, if a pack of peanuts has 100 grams total and you only eat a quarter, that means you're getting a quarter of the calories and macronutrients listed on the pack per 100 grams. That's useful to know if you don't have that second column with values present. Now, most macro tracking apps will list the nutrition values of a food per 100 grams, but will also allow you to change the portion you eat. So if a food is listed per 100 grams and you only eat 40 grams, just multiply by 0.4. On the other hand, if you eat, say, 250 grams, just multiply by 2.5. All you're doing is moving the decimal point on the weight in grams 2 places to the left. Now, something really important to watch out for can be labels on the front of packs. These often show the calories and fat content per portion. Many people read this and assume that a pack is 1 portion. So if you bought this 100-gram pack of peanuts, you might think it's only got 148 calories, the calories per 25-gram portion, when in fact it has 593 calories per pack. That's a pretty hefty difference. So remember, always check the package to see how much a portion is and see how much is in the total pack. Don't make the rookie mistake of assuming that they're going to be the same. Now, while you always get the nutritional information per 100 grams, sometimes you'll have a portion that's a lot bigger than that. For this example, I'm using a recipe for protein oats that might be typical for some of you. As you can see here, 100 grams of this recipe has 141 calories and 9.9 grams of protein, which sounds like a really small breakfast. But when you see that the portion size is actually 415 grams in the second column, the calories and protein increase to 583 and 41 grams respectively. Now, if you don't have that second column, all you need to do is multiply the value in the 100-gram column by 4.15. Remember, you just need to move the decimal place of the weight in grams 2 places to the left and multiply by that. At the start, all these numbers can seem kind of meaningless, but if you start looking at food labels somewhat frequently, or you use a macro tracking app, you'll come to learn what foods contain what in terms of calories and macros. Over time, you'll remember which foods are good sources of specific macros, like protein, without having to look it up, and this will help you make better food choices in your daily life. Now, besides the nutrition information on packs, you'll also see a lot of labels such as gluten-free, sugar-free, low-fat, 100% natural, just for example. Do these even matter? Well, it kind of depends. If something says sugar-free or low-fat, in reality, you're better off checking the back of the pack to see the sugar and fat content and the total calories, because that's what really matters for many people's nutrition goals. If a product says high protein, you're better off checking how much protein you actually get per portion, because by legislation, high protein only means that 20% of the energy content comes from protein. So a 100-calorie cereal bar with 5 grams of protein can legally say it's high protein. That's far away from the 20 grams of protein you get in most protein bars. As for gluten-free, that only really matters if you're actually sensitive to gluten, which in reality is probably much less than 5% of the population. It doesn't make a product healthier or better for weight loss if it's gluten-free. The same applies to soy-free or nut-free products. And as for the 100% natural label, it means virtually nothing in terms of health, because there isn't a recognized definition for natural. It just means a product doesn't have any synthetic additives, which doesn't necessarily make a product healthy. To give an example, refined sugar is 100% natural, but it's probably not a good idea to eat a lot of it. An even better example is botulinum toxin, which is also 100% natural and produced naturally by bacteria. It also happens to be one of the most lethal toxins on the face of the earth, but it's natural, so it's okay, right? Don't fall for that labeling scam. At the end of the day, learning the basic skills of label reading can help you learn a lot about what's in your food and what you eat, and help make your nutrition journey a lot easier and more manageable. I really hope this video has given you a good starting point when it comes to reading labels. As always, if you have any more questions, let me know in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe to the Myprotein YouTube channel for more great, evidence-based nutrition information.